Hey everyone, so in this video I want to talk a little bit about procrastination and a bit about organization as well. So one of the questions I get asked quite a lot, and Jed also gets asked quite a lot, is about how we manage to get so much stuff done. A lot of people know about the different things that we have to do as part of this business, as also as the support we give to PTDs, PT Distinction, and also some of the other businesses that both me and Jed also run. And people want to know kind of how we block things out and how we actually manage this. There are some things that we do as well. Obviously, we've been in business for a while. We do outsource a lot of stuff. We do have people running things for us. So that does help. So I'm not going to talk too much about that today. What I want to talk about is how you can kind of manage your time within your business, look at the systems you can use to help you do that. And also just basically identify what procrastination actually is. And if you find yourself procrastinating or delaying stuff, and not getting things done that you need to get done, then this training will probably help you. And we're going to talk a lot about that and how me, who's actually a bit of a serial procrastinator, I do procrastinate quite a lot, or I did, unless I have systems in place to help me stop doing that. I do struggle with it sometimes, but I'm also what's called an active procrastinator as well. I know that I actually get my best work done when there's pressure on. So sometimes I'll actually purposefully leave things to the last minute because I know by doing that it's going to help me focus and I'm going to do a better job. I don't do that all the time, and that's only for certain people, but that works for me. What I want to do is talk about some general stuff with procrastination today, talk about some techniques and tactics that have worked for me in the past and work for me now, and hopefully you can get something out of this. Hopefully you'll be able to maybe take some of the ideas we talk about today, try them out in your life and see if it'll help you in terms of managing your time better and hopefully stop you from procrastinating. So with that in mind, what I want to do is I'm going to bring the screen up, I'm going to pull a whiteboard up, and we're just going to go through a couple of things about procrastination first before we look at some techniques and hopefully just identify some of the things that may help you realize that you're actually a bit of a procrastinator and how we can actually tackle those and use them to our advantage. So let's go and take a look at the screen. There we go. So hopefully the screen's up now. So I'm going to jump down here onto the whiteboard. So first of all, one of the things we need to do is need to recognize that we are procrastinators, and if it is something you do. Now, the chances are you probably know this, but I want to just talk over a few different things that may resonate with you that a lot of procrastinators do. So the first thing you might find yourself doing is that you fill your day with low priority tasks. So you may find yourself that you're doing that every day. Instead of doing the most important things or the things that you know are important, you tend to prioritize low priority tasks over the major priority tasks. And we're going to identify why that may be happening and what you can do to deal with that shortly. You may find yourself that you leave an item on your to-do list. So you're leaving your to-do list. And what you're doing on here is you basically have an item on your to-do list that you know needs to get done, but you keep pushing it to the bottom of the list. And all these other things start taking priority over it. And you just find this thing's been sat on your list for a long time now, and you need to do something about that. Another thing is to do your emails and messages. So if you find that you're reading your emails or messages over and over again and not actually actioning them, then you may be struggling with a bit of procrastination. It basically just means that, let's say you go into your inbox and let's say you open an email up, you see it, you read it, and what you do is you just mark it as unread and leave it in there again. And that's just sat there, you go back and read it again, but you don't do anything with it. We're going to talk a little bit about today about how you can action those emails and what you can do with them and the importance of organizing them as well. But if you find yourself reading the same email but not actually doing anything with it, not actually making a decision on it, then you may be a bit of a procrastinator. Okay. This is a really, really cool one. This is something I used to be really, really bad with. So you will actually start a high priority task. So we're going to start a high priority task. I bet a lot of people will do this on here. So we're going to start a high priority task. And then what happens? We go get a coffee. So I'm sure many people who listen to this have probably done this before. They'll start a task and think, right, I'm all ready to go. Actually, I need to go and get a coffee. Actually, no, I need to quickly clean this up down there, or I need to quickly sort this out. You find all these little things that aren't massively important to distract you from doing something that you probably don't really want to do. And if you're somebody that does that, and I was definitely somebody that used to do this, then you probably are going to be a procrastinator, and we can look at some techniques to help deal with that as well. The other thing as well is, we kind of mentioned this already, about your low priority task, is that you're actually going to start finding time with unimportant tasks that other people ask you to do. So we talked about these low priority tasks on your to-do list that you will start, filling up your day with instead of doing the high priority ones. But let's say someone comes along and, Joe Blogs asks you to do something and you do it at the expense of your high priority task. So if you find yourself doing that, someone comes on and says, I need to do this, I need to do that, or this needs doing. And what you do is you put that ahead of your high priority task that you need to go and get done. That is also a sign of a procrastinator. Now, I know you may be thinking, well, sometimes I'm working, I'll get emails through, I'll get messages through, other people have issues and problems and stuff they need to deal with, and that takes priority. But you need to ask yourself, is do they actually take priority? Or are you just using that as an excuse not to do something? And also, I think we need to look at the systems and how you deal with those messages and setting boundaries and things like that, which we are going to look at today. I'm going to talk about the importance of that, especially if you want to scale and grow. Final one I want to talk about here is your mood. So sometimes you may wait for you in the right mood. How many times have you said to yourself, actually, I'm really not in the mood to go and do this today. I'll do this tomorrow. And then tomorrow's like, actually, I'm not in the mood today. I'll do it the next day. And then it's like, actually, I've got too much to do. I keep getting all these emails through. I ain't got time to go and do that. Actually, I've got all these little things I need to get done first. Once I've got these little things done out of the way, I can focus on my main one. All these things I'm talking about here are all telltale signs of somebody that procrastinates. And it actually makes it a lot harder for you to do your job. It really increases your stress levels as well. And what I want to do is talk about these and talk about what we can do in order to try and find out why we may be procrastinating and what we can do to deal with it as well and make life just a little bit easier for us. And that's what we're going to go and look at in a bit more detail right now. So what I want to do is look at some of the most common reasons why people procrastinate. So probably the first one is, well, you just don't like doing it. So if you just don't like it, so just don't like the task. That's a common reason, and it's probably one of the most common reasons, I think, for procrastinators. It's just they've got to do something they don't enjoy doing, they don't like to do, or maybe they're actually, it's not just about liking it, you're actually quite fearful of the outcome. So you may be actually doing it and thinking, actually, if I do this, it's going to cause this person to think about this, or maybe this will happen, or I might realize this by doing it. So you could even fear the outcome of it. And I think if these are one of the reasons here, like you just don't like it, or you just don't like what the outcome may be from actually doing that task, then this is actually something relatively easy to deal with. There's a famous book called Eat That Frog that might be worth checking out if you haven't seen it or not. But the basic principle about that is you just get the crap out of the way first. And that's one of the things I do. I have time that I focus work time that's all about doing my priority task for the day. That priority task might not necessarily be something I want to do, but it's something that needs to get done for the business to move forward. So I make sure I do that today, and I actually block off time to go and do that. I'm going to talk a bit about time blocking in a minute. I'm going to bring up my calendar to kind of show you how I block time off for stuff, and how I use this priority time here to deal with these kind of tasks. So tasks that I may not like, tasks that I'm maybe not too keen on what the outcome may be from doing that task. Sometimes that fear thing can be a bit of an ego. I might do something and think, actually, that's not what I thought it was going to be, or that's maybe not the best result I wanted. And I just don't want to like douse my ego a little bit in it. There's things like that can come around from this. But one of the best ways to deal with that is just to deal with it and get it out of the way. We're going to talk about some techniques in order to help you do that. Another thing as well is poor organization. So this it leads kind of nicely onto this, actually, what we was talking about a minute ago. So poor organization. If you're not organized in your day or in your business, and you don't really have kind of the systems and stuff to deal with it, it becomes very hard. If, say, for example, you find yourself going to bed at night and you're trying to think about all the things you have to do tomorrow, the chances are you'll probably end up procrastinating on a lot of those things, because that kind of fear is there. You don't want to do it. You start feeling stressed, and all these emotions get involved and make it harder for you to actually get the job done. It also reduces the amount of sleep and rest and recovery that you get because of it. And it just makes it a lot harder for you to do the next day. I mean, Imagine if you're not sleeping well at night because you're thinking about things you have to do the next day, and then you wake up the next day and you're really, really tired. Two things are going to happen. Either you're going to procrastinate by thinking, I'm really not in the mood today, I'm too tired, I just don't want to go and do this. Or you are going to go and do it, and because you're so tired anyway, you're not going to do the best possible job at it. So it's either going to take you 2 or 3 times as longer to do it, or you're just going to have to do it again because you've not done your best ability on that particular job. So it's really important that we do be organized. If we are organizing the things that we do, it generally means we do a better job. It generally means that we're going to get it right the first time around. And we don't have to overstress or overthink about things as well. And that's all about having good organizational skills and good systems inside your business in order to deal with this. But not just systems inside your business, personal systems as well. I'm going to talk a little bit about that in a moment when I bring up my calendar and talk about some of the techniques and things that I do in order to go and manage all that. Now, we've kind of touched on this a little bit already. And when sometimes you have poor organization or you just don't like what you're doing, and like I mentioned there, you fear the outcome. There's another thing you might fear as well, which is the fear of failure. Now, a lot of people feel failure, but also a lot of people fear success because they just don't want to be let down or let themselves down. Or they're just scared of where things are going to go next because it's uncertain, they're not entirely sure what's going to happen if they are successful in what they do. That's something when I was younger, especially, I struggled with. I always found that I started off in business when I was quite young. I always used to get to a certain level and I literally used to crap myself because I didn't know where it was going next. I didn't know if I could handle it. And also my ego got in a little bit. I wouldn't go and ask for help straight away. But I soon learned from a very young age that if I start asking for help and I started thinking about it, putting the systems in place and organizing things, then I'll be able to deal with this fear of success as well as the fear of failure. Now, you might think this is quite surprising here, but perfectionists are probably the biggest procrastinators I've ever met in my life. And I always used to use this as an excuse. I always used to go searching for perfection. I always want everything to be perfect before I did it. I'd cross all the T's, I'd dot all the I's, I'd want the branding spot on, all that kind of thing. And I never got anything out the door. It took so long to get things out the door because I try and make it perfect, but really what I was doing is I was just a bit worried about what would happen when I put it out there, whether people would like it or not like it. And the moment I learned to stop chasing perfection was the moment any of the businesses that I had just took off and things started changing. And I think perfectionists or being a perfectionist is probably one of the biggest reasons people procrastinate, or they use perfection as an excuse. The best thing you can do is just put things out there. And we're going to talk a bit about that a little bit later inside this training, but you can just put things out there and then deal with things later. You can improve things. You can make things better over time. And the chances are, and you've probably heard the famous saying before, is you are your own worst critic. Like, don't let that be the case. Just put things out there. Stop chasing perfection. So it's really important that you don't worry about getting these tasks done or these things on your to-do list and making them perfect every time. Good is definitely good enough. So just remember that when you're doing these things, good is definitely good enough. And if you do struggle with perfection, ask yourself this question. Go back and think about what it is you're actually doing that task for. Now, in the PTD Ninja 101 course, we go through in detail about why it is you're actually doing your business, why it is you actually want to run this business, what you want out of your life from the business, and make sure that everything you do inside your business is conducive to that. So it means that whatever you do inside your business needs to move your business forward in order to help your business achieve the goals. And those goals in turn in your business will help you achieve your own personal goals. So we break that down in quite a lot inside the course. Now, if you're chasing perfection, you need to ask yourself, will making this perfect help move me towards my goal? Or will this just being good enough and me getting it out there actually be good enough for me to move my business forward, to move my life goals forward? I can almost guarantee you 100% of the time, it will be fine. It will be fine. Good is almost always good enough, almost always good enough. So don't be afraid to put things out there and stop chasing perfection. It'll make life so much easier for you. Okay, cool. So now we've talked about some of the things to do with procrastination and kind of why we might procrastinate and some of the signs of procrastination and procrastinators. I want to talk about some of these kind of strategies you can use, some basic strategies to start off with, you can use to help you stop procrastinating. procrastinating. So let's take a look on the screen again, and we'll go through a couple of these on here. So the first thing to remember here is that procrastination, whichever way you look at it, is mainly a habit. That is basically what it is. It's a habit. It's something that we've built up over time. And as coaches, we know how important habits are. We also know that we can actually change our habits as well. So that should be a positive thing for you to understand now. We can change the habits. We can change the things we do. We can change the way we feel about things by following certain strategies. And that's some of what I want to talk about right now. So we're going to be looking at some of the things we can do, some of these different strategies. So the first one I want to look at on here is going to be basically just, first of all, accepting that you have procrastinated and forgive yourself for it. So just accept you procrastinate and forgive yourself, which is fine. Like, people do it. It's a very common thing. You know, most people will procrastinate at some point in their life. Some people do it kind of chronically. They do it a lot for lots of different reasons we've discussed already. And the first thing you need to do, like anything with this, like, you need to accept the fact that you have this issue, if you like, this habit that's been ingrained with you over a long period of time. And you need to accept that. You need to forgive yourself for the procrastination you've done in the past. The moment you do that, you have that level of acceptance, it makes it so much easier for you to be open to change. So that's the first thing I want you to do, is sit down, think about, how are you actually doing this? Like, have you managed to tick those boxes off we talked about earlier? Does it kind of resonate with you, what we've talked about already? And then now what you want to do is basically just go, okay, I'm a procrastinator. That's perfectly fine. I've done this in the past. I'm going to forgive myself for that. What can I do now moving forward to help me change my habits, so I'm no longer going to procrastinate on the important stuff in my life and in my business? And that's what we're going to be doing first. The next thing you can do is commit to a task. Now, that might sound really, really simple. And I'm thinking, well, this is the problem with procrastination. We don't commit to a task. Well, yes, but with procrastinators, we tend to think differently. So as a procrastinator, we focus on avoiding. That's what we focus on as procrastinators. We focus on avoiding. What we need to do is we need to stop focusing on avoiding. And what we need to do is focus on doing instead. Now, this is just a shift in mindset. We're going to be focusing on actually doing something and not avoiding something. So every time you decide to make a decision where you want to avoid something, then you want to stop, take a minute, step back for a few seconds and go, actually, what can I do in order to help me do this? Not what can I do to help me avoid this? Another interesting one you can do as well is think about rewarding yourself. So this is something I used in the earlier days. If I wanted to do something and I wanted to get it done, I'd give myself a little reward. No, so for example, earlier we talked about coffee. Like, sometimes you go for a coffee to try and put off doing a task. Well, why don't we reverse that slightly? So what we can do is we have a high priority task, a HPT, and we're going to reward ourselves with something after. So for me, I would say, okay, normally I get up, I'm going to do this task, and actually I'm going to go and get a coffee to put it off. So I change it. I go back to what I was talking about here, switching from avoiding to doing and going, okay, what can I do to help me do this? So I'm not going to go and get a coffee now. What I'm going to do is I'm going to get this task done, and I'm going to reward myself with the coffee after. And if you start doing this repeatedly, it starts changing the way you feel about these things. And it just makes it so much easier for you just to go and get stuff done. So that's something I would maybe look at doing. Look at what very simple rewards you can do, especially if you're using those rewards, if you like, in the first place, as a way to procrastinate, like we talked about earlier. So start flipping that narrative around. You're talking about doing, not avoiding. Okay, so another cool tip you can do inside here is to look at having some accountability and asking someone to check up on you. So we're going to ask for a checkup. So one of the things we can do inside the PTD Ninja support group and also inside the course is we have this kind of workbook where you can set yourself targets, and you can also use the group to hold you accountable. So if you want to get something done by a particular date, you can literally post it inside there and just go, hey, I want to get this done. I want someone to hold me accountable to make sure it's done. Using little techniques like that are really going to help with you getting things done. We know the importance of this as coaches. We use it all the time with our clients. We can use those same techniques with us as well as business owners and entrepreneurs to make sure that we get the stuff done that we need to get done by actually being held accountable to our actions to make sure we get these tasks and stuff done. So that's a really cool technique to help you do that. Now, another good one is what I call act as you go. So act as you go. So this is the idea that whenever you go and do something, if a task come in or something for you to do, you can start dealing with them more than letting them build up for a particular day. Now, this is going to be specific to certain tasks. So for example, you may have, like for us, we have projects and stuff that we run. So we have different projects we set up for different people, and we have certain priorities for that. But we also have our emails and our help desk in particular to support our clients. Now, on that help desk, things will come through and there'll be little changes and tweaks and things that people want making to their projects, to their business systems or to their PTD or whatever it is. They're going to want to make these little changes. Now, when those things come in, what's important to do is to action them. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean you have to go and do a particular task, but you have to do something to move that task forward. Sometimes, if you block off time to do it, which we're going to talk about time blocking in a minute, then go and action it and get it done. Like you may have to do it. Other times, the things that they're asking for may take more than just a few minutes to do. If it's, in my case, if it takes less than sort of 5-10 minutes to make that edit and change, I'll do it straight away. Or because we're lucky enough to have a team and we built our business up to have a small team around us, I'll actually assign it to someone else. So that's my task done. I've now assigned that to somebody else to go and help us. And that's something we can talk about when it comes to the business side of this and dealing with managing your time is about outsourcing and things like that, which we'll talk about in a moment. But what we can do is we action that particular email so they don't start building up. The last thing we'll do is have them build up. It just adds more pressure and stress and takes up more of your time in the long run. So actioning smaller things straight away is actually quite good if you're blocking off the time properly, which we're going to talk about in a moment. If you're just sat there watching your emails and messages come in 24/7 and you use things like Facebook Messenger, you've got people messaging you all the time, that's probably not going to work as well because you can't be there all the time, action stuff all the time. This only really works if you block time off properly. Again, which we will talk about shortly. But it's definitely a good approach to go and have. If you can tackle things straight away and the time's blocked up properly, then you can go and do that. It's a good way to keep that list down, keep that pressure off. The other thing you could talk of doing is we've mentioned about this at the moment about shifting the way you think between kind of like avoiding stuff and doing stuff. There's another mindset shift we can make if we find ourselves procrastinating. And that's basically going from need to and changing that to I want to. So this idea is changes it from like I want to do something, I'm making a choice to go and do something. And over here we have I need to do something. There's pressure to go and get that done. It's something I don't necessarily want to do. I don't really like doing it, but I need to go and do it. Whenever you're talking about it, instead of saying to yourself, or if you find yourself doing something like, okay, I need to get this done today. I've got this really big thing I've got to get done. I've got to get this coaching call done with this client. I've got to get these workouts and stuff built. If you change that need or have to phrase and switch it to I want to, whether you even mean it deep down or not, just do it. Like swap it to like, I want to get this done today. I want to go and do this today. I like to do this today. When you do that and you change that narrative, it changes the thought process in your brain. And over time, if you do that repeatedly, it's going to make it so much easier for you just to get these things done. So again, when you first do this, it might sound strange. It might feel a bit weird because all you're doing is taking a step back and going, actually, no, I don't need to. I want to. And deep down, you probably do want to, because if we go back to what we thought about earlier, when we was talking about what our end goals are inside our business, what our end goals are in our life, if we actually look at what we're doing inside our to-do list and making sure that what we need to get done is driving our business forward or driving our life forward to where we want it to be, then by rights, you should want to do it. No matter how much you may like it or not, it's kind of irrelevant, because if it's going to help you get towards your goals, of course, you're going to want to go and do it. So this actually does happen. And by changing this to I want to, it's going to, one, make it easier for you to do, but also two, it's going to help you really identify whether it's something you actually do really want to do, and if it's actually going to really help you move your business forward and your life forward to where you want it to be. The next thing we can look at is minimize distractions. Now, this can obviously be easier said than done. This is why I like blocking time, and I'm going to talk about this blocking time in a minute just to make things a little bit easier to try and get stuff done and prioritizing certain things. But if you can try and minimize distractions, all the better. So, for example, if you have your emails constantly open, I'd recommend you don't do that. Just switch them off. If you constantly get messages and things through Facebook or social media, switch it off. You don't have to do it. Block your time off for dealing with that. If you need to use social media and things after people communicate with you. Minimizing those distractions is going to make life so much easier for you. If you're working at home, which a lot of online coaches do, then you want to give yourself space in order to actually work without distraction. It's really hard. Like, a lot of people think it's a great idea working from home, but it's difficult. It is difficult because you have all those homely personal distractions around you. And what we need to do is remove those distractions. So if you have a room that you just use to go and work in, then go and do it. If you've got a home office, great, just go and do it. This one here is a home office. We only use it for work purposes. We don't use it for anything else. It removes the distractions. So we know when we're inside here, we are working. When we're outside that door over there, we're not working. And that just makes life a bit easier. Now, of course, I know you may not have this all the time, but you can pick spaces where you can do this, places where you want to work, where you know, your family know that when you're in that place, that is your time, that is your work time. So try and find ways to minimize as many distractions as possible and block off time, which we're going to look at in just a moment. The next thing we want to look at is, we've kind of talked about it already, is eat that frog. I'm going to steal the phrase because I think it's a good one. This is the idea that if you've got a task that you don't like or a high priority task you need to get done, get that done first. Like, get that priority out of the way and get that done first, because that's going to make life so much easier. And when I mean first, I literally mean first. So, like, if we're talking from a work point of view, don't open your emails, don't check your messages, don't go on Facebook, don't go on Instagram, don't do any of that stuff. Just get up, get into your work environment, wherever that is. Fire up your laptop if you need to go and do that. Don't put anything else on. Just open up what you need in order to get that job done. Get that task done before anything else. I mean, literally before anything else. Then once you've done that, you can move on to doing something else. Okay, so we've talked about there some different strategies and things that we can use if we do find ourselves procrastinating. But one of the things we've talked about there is a bit more about being organized and managing your time more effectively. So I'm going to give you a couple of tips on here, and I'm going to show you some of the things that we use inside our business to help us manage those different tasks. So the first thing I want to do is we're going to look at keep a to-do list. So to-do list sometimes can be overwhelming if you throw everything on that to-do list, but it needs to be a well-organized and prioritized to-do list. That's the important thing. Your to-do list shouldn't just be like chuck every single thing on that you feel you need to do. A lot of people feel that when they have a to-do list, they just write down everything they need to do on there. That shouldn't be the case. If you're doing a to-do list, this should be the things that you want to action to move your business and your life forward. That's literally what should be on that particular list. Now, when you do these to-do lists, as I mentioned there, you need to prioritize what you do on it. So you need to work out what your priority is, or what your priority are inside that to-do list. Now, there's loads of different techniques to go and do that. I'm not going to go into too much detail about them here, but there are lots of different techniques you can do to help prioritize things inside your list. One of my favorite ways of doing it is from a book actually called The One Thing, which is all about working out what the most important thing is at the expense of all other things that will help you achieve that particular goal, have the biggest impact on the goal that you want to do. I always apply that to everything. So if I've got stuff on my to-do list, I look at it and go, okay, that's my priority, that's my priority, that's my priority, and start moving them up. And as one's moved off, the next one becomes in. And that's how I work out what my high priority is. Now, of course, things are going to change when it comes to priorities. You may have certain deadlines you have to hit if you're doing certain things for your clients, and that's fine, in which case you may have to prioritize them. But again, that's the one that's going to have the biggest impact. Like, you need to make sure that you complete things for your clients. You need to make sure that you're moving your clients to get the best possible results. And if that means that particular client needs something quite urgently, then that may become the priority for you. And I'm saying maybe, because just remember, your clients' priorities are not the same as your priorities. They've only got one priority, that's them and what they're doing. You've got different priorities. So only when that happens, if there's urgency to get a client to do something, look at it and then make a decision based on whether that's actually going to help you move the bigger picture forward. Like, your clients are not in charge of you. Just remember that. So it's really important that you do remember that when you're looking at prioritizing different stuff inside your to-do list. The other thing to look at is scheduling, or normal scheduling for you, and let me spell scheduling right today, is to look at your schedule, I should say. Let's rub this out. Try that again properly. So look at your schedule and your planning. So this is a really important one. It's looking what you can do with your day and how you can manage your scheduling your day out, and actually do things like blocking out time as well inside this. So like putting blocks in to do certain things. And we're going to go and look at my calendar in a minute. I'm going to show you how I block out stuff in my time in relation to our business, and try and give you an idea of how you may be able to do that in your business as well. And make sure as well that you talk about this with your clients all the time. Make sure you have time-bound goals. So whenever you're setting things, don't just have a to-do list that doesn't have like any time-bound goals on it. Like, say, I'm going to get this done by this particular date. Nice and simple. It then helps hold you accountable to getting those things done. So what I want to do is I want to go over to my calendar. So I've moved forward here into April, just so I can kind of show you what my general blocked out time is. So inside here, it doesn't really show you like anyone's calls and things booked in. It just shows you what time I have blocked out. That's why I've moved it forward. So as you can see inside here, this is how I kind of split up my day. So the first thing we have in the morning, for me, my personal development time is quite important. So this is basically what I would do to move me forward, or sometimes the business forward, but it's generally for me. So that personal development time will be things like I might read, I might go and work out at the gym if they're open, do some kind of exercise, go for a walk, go for a bike ride, just something like that. Because I know if I start my day off and I get into work mode, I find it very hard to do those things. I find it very hard to switch off to go and read something. I find it very hard to go to the gym and get something done because I'm starting to feel the pressures of work a bit more. So I always use those first couple of hours in the morning for my personal time, and just do things to move me forward personally in both my health, my fitness, my mindset, my own personal development. Sometimes in professional development as well, like I will watch like master classes, I might do courses, I might study something that's to do with work, but I won't actually action anything from work. And I do that inside there. A cool tip I will give you though, if you're doing anything from personal development point of view or even professional development point of view, is if you are learning something, pick something into action from that straight away. It helps it actually sink in when you're doing things. Once I've done that, I then move on to my social media marketing. Again, I'm not really good at it. I just tend to like forget about it all the time. I'm not very consistent in it. So I tend to block off some time. So at 11 a.m., I have half an hour of social media marketing. That's basically just checking in on messages that have come through on Facebook. And I'm talking notifications here. One of the things I don't do is because the likes of Facebook and Instagram and things like that, as much as Instagram I use for work and I have a business page for the business on Facebook, Facebook is primarily a personal thing. It's something personally that we use. I use personal stuff on there as well. And yes, we have groups and stuff to support people, but with Facebook, you have to use your personal profile to engage with those groups. So yes, we're going to get notifications through and we're going to respond to people inside there. We'll ask questions, we'll answer questions to people. And that's what I use that time for. I use that time to go through any comments and things like that. What I don't generally use it for is my personal messages. And that's because they're personal messages. We have systems in place inside the business, for my clients especially, and for our website and things like that, that encourage people not to go via personal messages, mainly because it's nigh on impossible to manage. If you think about your business as a whole, and if you want to kind of grow your business, if you're constantly sat there having to have messages come through that are only coming to you, like for me, we have a team, we have a massive help desk that's managed. They're there all the time, so the messages can come in, they can respond to them quickly, they can get action properly, they can assign to the right person to deal with. If the messages are coming to me personally on Facebook, we can't actually deal with that because it's just coming to me. And bear in mind that you might get like 100 messages a day. Trying to manage those is very, very difficult. So during that time there, what we actually do is we don't really use it for messages, or I don't personally. We just use it for responding to notifications and things like that. I will talk about what I do with the messages and things in a second, but that's one thing I wanted to mention about, like, you need to have the systems in place and the boundaries and guidelines in place when you're doing this. If you're leaving yourself open where you have to manage everything 24/7 and you're reachable 24/7, it's going to be very hard for you to go anywhere because you can't scale unless you bring other people in. But if you bring other people in, with the likes of Facebook, for example, even though people do it, I know they do it, like, you're not supposed to let other people have access to your Facebook account. It's actually against Facebook's rules and regulations. So you technically could have your account shut down if you're letting other people access it to deal with your messages. So you just need to be thinking about things like that when you're looking at the systems and stuff you want to use to grow your business. I'm not saying you shouldn't use Facebook Messenger. I'm not saying it's something you should avoid doing. But over time, you think about how you can pull yourself away from that so you can have something that's a bit more scalable and a bit more easy to manage. So once I've done the social media stuff out of the way, like I said, just for messages and things like that, because we don't have any tasks or anything like that that actually come through there, it's just responding to stuff. It doesn't really matter what I do there, so I get it out of the way. Then I have my priority task. So this is the main task that I've decided needs to get done for that particular day. And that's what I get done. So I have nothing else on. Social media switched off. I've done whatever exercise and development I need to do. So I'm feeling okay. I'm feeling like a bit more motivated to go and do things. I'm not thinking about anything else. I'm just focusing on that priority task. I get that task done out of the way. Once I've done that, I then go onto my help desk. So as you can see here, I've actually put on a 30-minute block for the help desk. Now, you may need to have bigger blocks than this. Again, this is just an example of how I do it. You want to pick something that's relative to what you need to get done. So luckily enough, we have a team of people. So when questions stuff come through, I can assign it to other people. And also I have people in the business who will assign certain things in the help desk to me, so I know what I can focus on. So I use this time here to deal directly with anything that's been assigned to me inside the help desk, and I allow my team to decide whether it's something I need to deal with or not inside there. Obviously, when you start off in a business, you won't always have those kind of things in place, which is cool, which means you might have to have a bit more time aside to deal with like client messages and things like that, depending what you want to do, or dealing with emails. But the last thing you want to do is have your emails open 24/7. Block off some time to go and deal with those messages and then action them as you go. And that action can be, like we've talked about earlier, getting it actually done and out of the way if it's only a small action to take, or putting something in place to make sure it can be actioned. So that might be if you have a team, assigning it to someone else to go and deal with it. Or if you have to, then add it to your to-do list, but be clear what you want to do. Don't just say, go back and read this email. Look at it and go, okay, this particular client needs this doing, so that is my particular task, and it's going to be done by this date. Whatever happens when you open up an email, action it. And then, once that time is blocked finished, stop what you're doing. Don't go back into it, close it off, then you'll continue with that the next time that block opens up again. It takes a bit of discipline to do, but it's going to make life a lot easier for you, I promise. For me, then we have what's called the work time. This is where people can book in for sessions and book in for calls with me. And also I do stuff on projects and work with clients. That's generally what I do through there. Sometimes I may have a bit of free time during that time, but not always. It's mainly just getting work done. And what I normally do then is focus between 1 and 8:30 p.m. on actually getting project work done for 4 days of the week. I then do another social media check around 8:30. So that's the same thing as up here. I just go through things on there, checking on social media, just to see what any questions and stuff that have been followed up. And during this time as well, sometimes I'll look through my messages inside there and I'll respond back to people, basically just telling them where to go. So like if they need to contact, if they're asking about a work thing through a project, I'll say, please go through to the help desk. If it's for something else, I'll direct them in the right direction, because that way it helps set those boundaries when you're doing things inside the messages. And after that, I generally have some personal time. So personal time, I've just blocked it off here because generally speaking, I won't have calls during this time. It doesn't mean I won't always work. Sometimes I will have to go into here. Like I mentioned, you have to prioritize things. And sometimes that requires you to do longer hours if you're doing new stuff, which is fine. That's going to happen. Just because it's inside here doesn't mean you can't do it. The important thing is to try and say that the majority of the time you go for this. So for me, I know that the majority of the time I try and have this as my personal time in the day, so that I can have some time to relax with my wife, Sarah, and and just to do just some stuff for me, basically sometimes just to relax and things like that. Like I say, on occasions I will have calls booked in there if we're working with people in Australia, for example, and it's a better time zone for them. Sometimes we'll have to get other work and projects done depending on what's happening, but 99% of the time we'll try and have this time free here. Then for me, what I do is on the Friday, we generally work Monday to Thursdays. We try to do four full days a week. That's what I personally like to do. And then Friday morning, we have a masterclass. You can see I've got masterclasses down here as well that we run, which are blocked out for time. And then I do my organic marketing for the next week. So this is stuff to do with marketing that I do for the following week. I pre-schedule stuff to go out for my business marketing at that time. And then I have the Friday afternoon off, which is normally I'll go to the gym or do something just personal to improve what I'm doing. So a bit of personal development time and also personal time inside there. I'll still do a social media check towards the end of the day, and then I'll have personal time again. And the weekend, I just have off completely from work altogether. So this is my general structure for the week inside here. And by having this structure, it means it gives me a reminder of what I need to do. And I also even add inside here a note of what it is. I use this time to work on me, read, exercise, meditate, whatever. I actually put notes inside each of these to remind me what I need to do, because that way I don't have to think about it. It's dead clear, just like, oh, this is what I'm doing now. And it just makes life a little bit easier. So one of the best advice I could give you is to kind of block out your time like this and use this to your advantage. Think about what's going to work best for you and your business as well as your clients. Block things out so you have time for you, time to develop yourself, time to develop with your business, time to get your priority tasks done, time to market, and time just to deal with general day-to-day business stuff as well. And then once you've done this, it should make it a little bit easier for you to hopefully stop procrastinating and hopefully have a bit more organization and systems inside your business to help move things forward. Anyway, I hope that's been helpful. I hope you've got plenty out of that. Of course, if you've got any questions, please do let us know. And yeah, I'll see you in my next video. Cheers. Bye-bye.